Hi, people. This is DJ.
This is Ish.
And this is
Season
season 3
3
of Pero Let Me Tell You.
Oh God, my computer, like my charger, it gives power to the computer, but it doesn't charge.
Oh, yeah. That happened to me the other day with my work computer.
Yeah, so it's like, what the, you know.
Well, but then you have to do that whole spiel of like, take out the battery, put the battery in.
No, I think that my charger is just, my charger has been chewed by a dog and it's fallen out of a car like 3 times.
Okay, so that's beyond. I think that's not even standard warranty.
That has nothing to do with coronavirus. So, well, anyway.
Welcome to episode 105.
Welcome to episode 105.
Although I will say there's something refreshing about the fact that your troubles with your computer have nothing to do with COVID-19.
Yes. Yes. So how is everybody? Episode 105. Here we are. How are everybody's other troubles?
Here we are, not face to face. A couple of shelter in places.
Oh boy. So here we are. This is what, like the 3rd week?
I thought it was day 612, to be quite frank with you. I mean, if you had told me we've been doing this for 4 years, I'd believe you.
Okay. Don't the days seem to be going by quicker? Like the day, like before you know it, it's 5 o'clock.
Okay, yes, but the problem is that I don't know what day it is. You know what I mean?
know what day it is. I know what day it is because I have to know what day it is because of Tristan's schoolwork.
No, and like likewise for work, I have to know what day it is. But like, there are days where I'm just like, wait, is today Wednesday or today Thursday? You know, that's
but even then, it's like before you know it, it's like I'm like, but it's already 4 o'clock. Like, where did the day go? And it's not like you know when you're busy and you kind of lose yourself in whatever you're doing and you look up and it's like, oh shit, like 4 hours passed.
Not always.
This is not the situation now. This is not the situation now
at all.
So it's like I watched The View and it's like, oh. The View is so early and it's not early. It's like at 11 o'clock. Yeah, but it's funny because
by the time The View is over,
yesterday I went to work. I actually went to the office and I did real work. So how's everybody out there? Is everybody working? Are you working from home? Are you still going to the office? I feel there's a lot.
It's weird.
A lot of people still going to the office.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on what you do. And as we've been spotlighting and highlighting on our page, thank you to all first responders and essential workers out there. But I think it depends on what you do. But I do still see people like out and about, like driving. You know what I mean? And so they're going somewhere. I don't know.
Well, I'm guilty of driving because there's moments that I'm just so like, oh my God, that I need to take a drive.
I mean, when I get that feeling, I literally just go out for a jog. I feel like going out, like going somewhere far. No, I go for a jog aquí in beautiful Coral Gables and
shirtless, of course,
because what other way is there to jog? And but again, I've done it like during lunchtime. I've done it after work. I've done it in the mornings. So it's like I still see people drive. Not as many, obviously. I mean, yesterday I went to my parents' house. Y la 40, it was like las 6 de la tarde, and it looked like it was 1 in the morning. Like there was no traffic.
You do realize that I go every day, almost every day. I go power walking, and I wear a hoodie.
You wear a hoodie, but see, it's like 85 degrees. What the hell are you? When
I do cardio, I like to be covered. Actually, when I go to the gym, I like to be covered. I don't like to go in cutoffs or anything like that. And
I like to see everything that's working out.
I just might add, people that are really into bodybuilding and powerlifters and all that always go covered.
Oh, that's fine. I'm not really into bodybuilding. I'm really into seeing myself in the mirror.
Oh, well, we all have different priorities in life, right?
I mean, how will I know the perfect angle and the lighting to take my selfie if I can't see, where the light hits my muscle?
I remember there was some time last year. This is, you and I are different at the gym. I was actually squatting, but I was squatting for real, unlike what you do.
I squat for real. I have the ass to prove it.
Okay, right. Do you squat 3 or 4 benches without shoes on an actual like either Smith machine or squatting bench?
So I don't squat without shoes on because every time I do, my feet hurt afterwards.
Yeah, you use one of those already pre-established weight things.
Yes, and it works perfectly. No complaints.
Yeah, that's not you don't squat with that.
I bet you that I probably have better form for my squat than you do.
I can assure you that I don't, because if there is something that I do perfectly are my squats, and I was taught by not one but 2 personal trainers, both of them Marines.
Okay, fine. The Marines are sticklers. I'll give you that.
Well, the point is, I remember sometime I was squatting. I was squatting, and I remember that I had a long sleeve hoodie on. I had long pants, and I'm thinking like, wow. I thought about you. I'm like completely covered. You would practically be naked if you were at the gym.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, when I go to the gym, I go there to sweat, and my problem is that if I wear I'll wear sweatpants sometimes, but if I wear too many things, me pongo incómodo. Like empiezo a sudar, and I just feel like I can't move. I feel restricted. I can't exist. So I need, shorts and tank tops as much as possible.
Meanwhile, I like to feel cozy.
No, the only thing that was missing, now thanks to Corona, you have it, is a face mask.
Yeah. So there we go. There we go. I was ahead of the curve.
You were ahead of the curve, and now we're trying to flatten it. So
before we get into the obvious subjects, because since it's coronavirus all the time, and before we go down that route,
that's true.
So I don't know if a lot of people just forgot, obviously, because of the coronavirus, or because everything on the news is coronavirus. Yeah. But this week was the end of Modern Family.
Oh, I just saw it, actually. I just saw it today before we started recording on Fake Friday.
I have to say I was really moved by the show.
The series finale was very, very well done.
And it's funny because I kind of didn't want it to end the way it did, but it did, and I just
we won't spoil the ending, but how did you want it to end? Because your ending isn't the ending, so we're not spoiling anything.
Well, because the thing is that if I say how I want it to end, then it's gonna be obvious how it ended. I just not the way it ended. I don't like separation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I think that for a show that's about a family, because again, it's one thing when you have a series finale of a show that has a central plot, right? Where like a drama, for instance, it's about this thing, and so this thing has to be resolved. But when you're dealing with a sitcom that's about just day in, day out, everyday life, it's a little trickier. You know what I mean? You want to end it in a way that there's finality to the show, but shows that these characters continue.
Yes and no, because for example, I think that one of the most absolutely perfect endings to a show was Everybody Loves Raymond, because Everybody Loves Raymond was about the complexities of a family. There really wasn't a story arc to the series of Everybody Loves Raymond. Yeah. So I love the fact that the show ended with all of them arguing around the kitchen table. Nothing needed to be finalized. Nothing needed to be solved. They were who they were. And I actually thought that Modern Family was going to go down that route. Because, again, the show was just about their lives. It wasn't for example, Friends, that in Friends you knew that it was going to end with Ross and Rachel getting together somehow. And you knew that Monica and Chandler were going to have a baby. Those were things that were a build-up to the show. And there's some other shows, obviously, that have a peak. But I thought that Modern Family was going to go down that way, and it didn't. It took kind of a bit of a left turn, which it was still good. It was still good, but the
only reason I thought it wasn't going to go down that route is because of the premise that they established the show with, that they just basically completely abandoned. Mm-hmm. Which is the fact that
what do you mean?
Well, that show is supposed to be a documentary of these families.
Uh-huh.
That's how it started. So I felt because of that, because if they decided to go the route of, and this is how the documentary ended, You know what I mean? Like it could have gone that
okay.
route. So it kind of it could have had a finale in that way.
So we were doing this documentary because they were still doing the until the very end.
Yeah, for like 11 years.
The confessionals.
Yeah, exactly.
The confessionals. So it was a documentary that we never saw the end of.
We never saw the end of the documentary. But speaking of, did you watch the special about it?
Yes, I did. I did. Yeah.
Ooh, excuse me, I almost choked on my saliva there. The special actually me dio más sentimiento. I felt very not emotional, but like me dio sentimiento watching the finale. But the special more so because it was
me too.
Then you start seeing like the kids. They started when they were so little, and how and it's like wow, like when Julie Bowen starts talking about how like she had her kids on the show. She got divorced. One of her cousins died. It's just like, oh my God, she went through like everything in life while she was on the show.
But it was 11 years. And it's funny because when I was watching the special that they were talking about 11 years, I'm like, where did time go? Because I remember when that show started, it was such a big deal. And that was one of those shows that I like Friends, that it was popular from the very beginning.
Yes,
like
it's one of the last.
Show from the very first season, it was a hit. It wasn't like a build up.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, it's been 11 years, which it makes me think like, why didn't they just do 12? Because to me, shows should end on an even number.
Yes, but you know why? I think you know why they didn't do it, because they did 250 episodes. That's a nice round number.
Right.
Oh yeah,
but in terms of seasons, like I like a nice round number. That's like now with Fuller House ending in season 5. Right. Why don't they just do a season 6? But obviously, like a lot of times, like Sofia was like, why can't we be like Law and Order that goes on forever?
Right.
But I'm sure that show, especially, I was looking at the ratings. It still has a lot of ratings, but the ratings definitely have peaked a long time ago.
Oh,
and I can just imagine,
like everything on TV nowadays. I mean,
but I could imagine that show that's been around for so long, and that Casa has been along for so long, they're getting paid good money, and I'm sure that the production of that show is in the millions of millions. So
I mean, on the flip side though, because it's so heavily syndicated and still successfully syndicated, I'm sure it's still making money for them. Pero bueno, that's I think it's funny though that you like your TV seasons in even numbers, but you like your girl groups and your boy bands in odd numbers.
Of course, because then there's not somebody in the middle. There needs to be somebody in the middle, and for there to be somebody in the middle, there has to be an odd number.
Exactly.
So I'll take 3, 5, and 7.
Exactly.
but not 4. Not 2, 4, 6, or 8.
Nope. You're a very complicated man, sir. Also, we gotta say, what else ended this week? I haven't seen it yet, but Schitt's Creek.
Oh yes.
Yep.
But I haven't. I'm not on the last season of Schitt's Creek.
Excuse me. Oh no, I'm caught up. I'm caught up, and like last week's episode was the because they did the finale as like a 2-parter. So they aired part 1 last week, and I got teary-eyed.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm gonna eventually get there.
Yeah, I got teary-eyed mostly because if you've seen the entire, for those of you who've seen the entirety of Schitt's Creek, these were not lovable characters when they started. You know what I mean? I mean, they were in the sense that they were the protagonists, but they were very standoffish with the town and this and that. And so
they weren't warned.
Right. So when you see them now, where they've come, it's nice. I don't know. When you invest in characters that way, you feel it sometimes, I guess. Or I'm just a big sap because con esto, I don't know about you, but with this thing of like freaking being sheltered at home, I'm like crying at so many things that I watch now.
I don't know if I'm crying more or less, or maybe less, because I'm like, whatever. I'm so bored that it's like, whatever. But actually, I wanted to get back a little bit to Modern Family because, obviously, this is like our Hispanic angle of the show.
Of course.
Modern Family, introduced to America, what we already knew for years and years and years, which was Sofia Vergara.
Yep, Sofia Vergara leapt out of a plane parachuting into America.
Yeah, exactly. And like I remember when the show took off, and she was everywhere because not only because she's hot, but because of her character and all that. It's like, hello, like we have known about Sofia Vergara for so long, and
we know
I feel that she. and as a blonde, and she was such a staple in like Hispanic households.
Yeah.
Because she was one of these people that I know her from that show Fuera de Serie with Fernando Fiore. That's where I knew her from. But she was one of these people that she just popped up everywhere.
Yeah, and the thing is that they kept trying at ABC. Actually, in the special, they mention it that when they were starting the show Modern Family, she was already attached because she had like I don't know how many years development deal with ABC.
I remember Hot Properties.
Thank you. I forgot the name, but yes, it was like designing women, but with real estate.
Yeah. And because the thing with Hot Properties is that I don't know if Hot Properties went for a second season, but it did air for a full season.
It just had one.
But they aired like a full season of it. So it wasn't just like the pilot episode and a few episodes and then it was gone.
Right. But yeah, so I mean, they were going to do something with Sofia Vergara. You know what I mean? They were like, listen, we're going to figure out where to use this woman. Look, they had to find the right property. And what I love, and I don't know, because again, since she was attached from the beginning, is I love that she, from the beginning, was Colombian. Like, and I get that.
I love it.
I get that. Yes, she's Colombian, but they didn't try to like. And I guess it's the times that we're in now, right? Where like they didn't try to dilute what it meant to be Colombian. Because if you go back to I Love Lucy, you know, Desi Arnaz, born in Cuba. I mean, that accent couldn't be more Cuban if it tried. Whenever they would talk about like, you know, oh, I'm gonna like Lucy would throw a party to, you know, make Ricky remember his days in Cuba. Like, you know, they would have somebody come in with like the big sombrero, you know, and it's like, okay, I don't know what part of Cuba that's from, but I can tell you it's
and he was Cuban on the show. It's
right.
Not like...
And he was one of the producers and creators.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's just America had no concept of what that was, and now we're in a place where, you know, she can come in and talk about like, you know, no porque en Colombia and, you know, and you know, all about the culture of the country. And no, it's not that nobody blinks an eyelash, but it's like, of course she's going to be Colombian. Why else would she not?
I also kind of appreciated how, and this is something you could do obviously if you are Hispanic, but how she kind of took jabs at her own culture.
Well, yeah. There were no sacred cows, you know?
You know, like, I remember the episode where she brought her cousin, that her cousin was like, she's like, I will do the laundry on the river against the rocks. Do you know what my favorite, like, scene of Modern Family is?
Which one? I have two, and they're both I
forget what season it was, but it was definitely early on. The one where Manny had the little friend, the girl that was a goody two shoes, and she tells Manny, "Oh, if you add salt to the milk, it enhances the flavor." And Gloria was like, "What are you talking about? Are you gonna add salt to milk? That's disgusting." And then in her confessional, she's like, "I added salt to the milk, and it was delicious."
That is one of my top. That's my top three, but my top two, and I don't know which one is number one and which one's number two, but they're with her. Where she was learning how to ride a bike. And she was saying that she wouldn't because in Colombia, when you would try to ride your bike, somebody would come and grab you and take you. And so she's like, I did it. And all of a sudden, Claire jumps out of the bushes because she needs the bike. And she just starts screaming. She's like, they're going to take me. And the other one is such a stupid joke, but I love it. It's an episode where Jay is playing poker with all his, you know, his poker buddies. And Billy D. Williams is there. And Gloria walks in and he turns to her and introduces himself. And he says, "Hi, I'm Billy D. Williams." And she, without missing a beat, just says, "Hi, I am Gloria D. Wife." It's such a stupid joke, but she does it so well. And
she is great. I've always loved her, but I love the fact that, you know, that she's so like sexy and she's so unapologetically like hot, but she's such a goofball. You know what I mean?
Right.
That is what I absolutely love of her, because there's so many women that, you know, look like her, that want to be a sex bomb, and they take themselves so seriously. And she is such a goofball. And yeah, obviously, her character on the show was an exaggerated version of herself. Right. But that's what she seems to be in real life, you know?
Yeah.
I told you, I could just imagine being at home with her being, "Joe, hey, Joe! Joe, come here!"
Meanwhile, what a great household. because she is a drop dead gorgeous sex bomb who's always making fun of herself, and he's like a super hot guy who plays Dungeons and Dragons.
Imagine if they had ugly children.
Oh no, that's just wrong.
Yeah. like they should have the most beautiful children on earth.
They should. They should like we should all just collectively hope for this as a country.
Anyway, bueno, moving along from TV and Modern Family.
Yes.
So you've probably heard that due to our coronavirus, or the Rona, as some people are calling it, there's people that I saw this already on 2 news stations. So one of the, many items in the grocery store are like increasing in price.
Oh yeah, eggs.
Orange juice, milk, and eggs.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of people, put this on TV, who are buying chickens.
Wait.
So
the rest of the country is becoming Hispanic? Is that what's happening?
They're buying chickens, and I'm like, people, my parents have had chickens since I was a kid. And Tristan needs organic eggs from Westchester.
Yes. Now, there's 2 words I didn't think could be put together. Organic and Westchester.
So I'm like, my mom has been ahead of the curve for years.
That's so funny. That's so funny that it's like that. Oye, pero también, like, honestly, I mean, we have a friend who she buys, I don't know how much gallons of milk a week. Like, she might as well just go and get a cow at this point.
A cow.
It's just cheaper.
She might invest in a cow.
It's just cheaper.
Yeah, although, I mean, this friend of ours, there's maybe 6 people in her house, 5 people in her house, and they have over 5 gallons of milk a week. A week. And she was telling us the other day, I'm like, that's an average of a gallon of milk per person a week. I love milk because I am a milk drinker. I love milk, but I can't go through a gallon of milk a week.
Mira, ojalá que no. Tal vez ellos cogen el coronavirus, but they will not get osteoporosis in that house.
Oh, no. And that's like me with my 40 bottles of orange juice. I ain't getting scurvy.
You are not going to get scurvy. You can go work on a pirate ship.
I ain't getting scurvy. But yeah, I mean, that's something now that obviously we're dealing with it now. And we're going to be...
But that's a temporary inflation. I was reading about
no, of course it's a temporary inflation, but any inflation when you're not making any money or you're making less money is bad.
That is true. That's true. I mean, I'm speaking as somebody who, thankfully, knock on wood, I'm in an industry that is doing actually pretty well, all things considered, and we have stability. I mean, I think we actually got an email from the CEO that we're still getting our first quarter bonuses this week. So, I mean,
wow.
Yeah,
you're very lucky.
I cannot complain. I know I am very fortunate.
Because that's not the case with me. Like my business, the beginning of March when all this was happening, I don't know what like the connection was with the coronavirus and law. My business died, and I've spoken to other law offices and dead. Well, in my office building, there's 11 law firms and they're all closed.
No, I would imagine. Oh, it's funny you say that because I was reading the other day again. Like you said, it's so hard to find non-corona news, but I found some that is still related to corona. But I found it very interesting that I think the other day they had the first shelter-in-place, work-from-home virtual court hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Where, I mean, because, we've seen it before where the inmate is in the prison and so via satellite or whatever. But it was the only 2 people in the courtroom was the judge and I think it was the prosecutor. The defense attorney,
the prosecutor.
The defense attorney was from her house via Zoom or Skype or whatever in her backyard, con todo el matojo behind her, and they were just arguing the case. Everybody via, I guess, Zoom or multiple screens. It was like if the Brady Bunch went to court.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will let you know next week how that goes.
Oh, you're doing one of those?
On the 14th, we have a federal court hearing, and it's gonna be it's gonna be virtual. I have no idea how that's gonna go.
Now, let me ask you something, because I would assume you can't really have a trial in this environment, can you?
No, I can't imagine having a trial. I mean, how is the jury gonna do this?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you have to have everybody set up in Zoom, but I mean, how? Okay, fair enough, they're already sequestered at home, but
I can't imagine having a jury trial because, first of all, just the aspect of the jury we're not even talking about the complexities of litigation. Because in litigation, when you're having a trial, when you're cross-examining or directing a witness, that has to be done in person. That just can't be done.
Right.
I mean, it loses so much
of course
effectiveness when it's not done in person. Depositions maybe can be done virtually, but in a trial, like I can't imagine crossing a witness via Zoom or via Skype, like, and then on the other side screen, the other attorney, objection,
right.
and then there's like a delay because when you're in the line of questioning, the timing of the objection is everything. If you wait 1 second, maybe it's not timely.
That's true. But what if you have a bad connection at that moment?
You have a bad connection, and like my objection comes through, 10 seconds later, and the person already answered the question. Like, but just the aspect of the jury. How is the jury going to convene, and how is it going to go over evidence, and how is it going to discuss a case? And remember that all that stuff is very confidential. So, like, I don't know. I mean, I imagine if this continues for months, there's going to have to be. I don't know. There's going to have to figure something out.
Because part of one of our rights is due process, a speedy trial, and so I mean this is one of those types of things where, like, obviously it's a situation out of everybody's control, but I could see certain defense attorneys making that case that Your Honor, we have to either have this trial by X date or my client will be able to be released or something. I don't know.
I mean, the speedy trial thing is a little bit different because that's like when the court is sitting on their ass on a case, or the opposing party files excessive motions to delay things. But there is not that there's a specific time frame, but there's kind of like a reasonable time frame. So like, let's say this goes on for 6 months, and
right.
somebody is sitting there waiting for their trial, and there's no. I mean, I don't know. I actually have no clue how they would do that, but yeah. But I'm not sure. There's so many jobs or different industries that are going through something similar.
Yeah.
Because now, like, they've said, which is a good thing, that obviously the projections of what they expected of people to, die from coronavirus in the U.S. is not going to be as high as they anticipated at one point, which is absolutely great news. Yeah. But that doesn't change, the whole curve thing, the plateau, right. and the going down the curve.
Right.
Because I would imagine, which this is when I think the government is going to have to be, whether it's the federal government or the state government, has to be extra vigilant and extra strict, is whenever we start going down that curve, that is going to be when it's the most important to keep the social distancing and all that.
Oh, of course. Yeah. You can't. That's like, like if you're in a marathon, y tú estás corriendo and you're like, oh, the finish line is right there. Like, that's not when you stop. And
Te va a pasar la jigotea, and you know what happened.
Right. That's when you gotta, like, ponete las pilas and, like, and really, okay, let's be a little more aggressive.
And then that's gonna be hard because then by that time, we have already been in lockdown for a really long time. If people are getting even more restless, then you're gonna have your naysayers that are like, ya esto se acabó, So right. that's gonna be another shit show in its time.
It's coming, baby.
I feel it coming. I feel it coming, baby. Man, his new album is so good.
Oh, that's right. It was like a month ago now, right?
Weekend, yeah. I was actually thinking,
he was gonna go on tour, and Jose, I think, bought tickets for it.
I was actually thinking, like, in the last 10 years, like, who's like my favorite person that has come out like in the last like 10, 12 years, and it's by far The Weeknd.
No, te gusta el fin de semana.
I freaking love I call him Abel. The Weeknd. Again, that's the type of music that I like, and he's so freaking good.
Right, yeah.
He's so good.
It's true. You do enjoy Canadian hip hop.
Yes,
true.
Yes,
Drake.
The Weeknd and Drake.
Yes. Listen, I didn't say it was a big genre, but it's there.
No, notice who wasn't in my top 10. Notice who wasn't in my list of favorite people of the last 10, 12 years.
There's a lot of people who are not in that list.
Stephanie.
Ay, la Jaramota.
Did you see what she did on Jimmy Fallon's show yesterday?
No.
So Jimmy Fallon has been doing his show. So we're talking about Lady Gaga now, which again, I've expressed how I feel about Lady Gaga many times. I think she's super duper 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 talented. No, nothing takes away from her talent.
Yeah, it's a complex relationship you have with Stephanie.
So do you. She has great songs. I think Bad Romance is one of the greatest pop songs ever. Yeah. But I've never drank the Gaga Kool-Aid. I just don't care for it. She annoys the hell out of me when she opens her mouth and starts talking whatever the hell she talks. Whatever. It's like, shut up and sing and perform. And like, for me, like her personality is like raw. But anyway, ¿cómo se llama? She was on Jimmy Fallon's show this weekend. Jimmy Fallon, like everybody, is doing his show from home via Zoom or whatever. So, I mean, I imagine that even though these interviews are via Zoom, these interviews were scheduled and confirmed and whatever.
Yeah, it's not like he just randomly called somebody.
So when she was on it yesterday, she was like, I really can't talk right now. I gotta go because I have like a million phone calls that I have to make. At first, when I heard her say that, I thought she was kidding.
Right.
Oh, no, she wasn't kidding. She was like, I'm in the middle of something right now, Jimmy. I really can't talk right now. And it's like, but you have to schedule. Like,
yeah, I mean, unless he did not schedule this, like, that's just, calm down, Stephanie.
I really doubt that Jimmy Fallon is going through, like, his contacts on his phone and being like, Stephanie, let's call Stephanie.
I'm so bored today. Who do I call?
And she apologized for it, of course,
Right.
I don't know. I thought that she said she was gonna say that she was in a bad frame of mind, kind of like when she did Do What You Want With My Body with
or like everybody says now whenever they get caught being a jerk. Porque
I was in a bad frame of mind.
Ahora, whenever somebody's un hijo de puta o un estúpido, it's just like, I'm so sorry for my actions. It's just that at that moment, I wasn't in my right frame of mind and blah, blah. It's like, dude, you're just an ass. That's fine. We're all assholes. You don't have to apologize for it.
Yeah, Vanessa Hudgens, the coronavirus is not a laughing matter, and neither is, geriatric death.
I don't know. Maybe that's the next High School Musical.
Did you hear about that thing?
I did. You know what bothered me the most about it is that she just didn't look cute. Because I can forgive a lot if you at least look cute while you're saying stupid shit. But she didn't try.
You know what that reminded me of? Because in her defense, although I'm not defending her, this was kind of like early on.
Right. Yeah, it was like the first week or something like that.
It kind of reminded me of that major snafu Eva Longoria had with Hurricane Katrina. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, so in 2005, when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans,
right.
Remember that it came through Miami first.
Yes.
And in Miami,
didn't really do anything here. I mean,
here was like a category 2, category 3, which is like a Tuesday for us.
Yeah, exactly. It was like okay.
Okay, a category 2, a category 3 is coming. Okay, whatever. By water, and the lights are going to go off for a day or two. Whatever.
Exactly.
Whatever. Anyway, that same year, the VMAs were held in Miami.
Right.
Right, which is it was the whole VMAs that had the whole water theme.
No, they had the boats.
And they came in boats, and Kelly Clarkson sang "Since You've Been Gone," under the water, under the rain, whatever. And it was the VMAs were in danger of being canceled because of Hurricane Katrina coming through to Miami.
Right.
But obviously, ultimately, they went on.
Right.
And she came out in a bathing suit. She comes out and she's like, I'm not going to let a little hurricane stop me from being at the VMAs. This hurricane is no big deal. And then obviously...
48 hours later...
I mean, in her defense, nobody.
That's the thing is, a lot of times we crucify people, and again, it's not that we're defending Vanessa Hudgens, but I think that when she came out and said it, I really think that even people who are now singing a different tune probably felt the same way, to a degree of like. It's not that big of a deal, people. Like, it hasn't affected that many people. Now, could she have said it differently? Maybe. But I think, it's that whole thing of, like, with hindsight, it's like, shit, this got real. This got really real really fast.
But it's also that whole thing of, like, with specifically celebrities, and on Twitter, We know, as we've discussed so many times before, that Twitter, is evil, and like anything you say on Twitter gets blown out of context. It has just ended careers. I mean, it ended Roseanne's career.
Right.
When her Roseanne Barr was at a like a revival
Total
high
renaissance
with her show, and it ended her career. And it's gotten so many people in trouble. I just don't understand why celebrities, how they're not more careful on what they put on their social media. Like me, that I'm gonna post something on Instagram and I'm writing something. I will sit there for like 5 minutes and be like, okay, let me reward this. Okay,
right.
No. Like,
and we don't have as many followers. Like and we're not gonna get shit for it. Yeah.
I like majorly overthink it. Like even when we do on the podcast, like whenever I write something, I'm like meticulous on what I write. And even me being meticulous, you still have the one person that will DM us and be like, oh, but you didn't, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, dear God.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. But you know what? That just proves that, you know what? We all have a very, very, we all have a very strong voice, and we all have to be careful with what we say. But on the flip side, we all need to make sure that we're all counted. And the way we can do that is by participating in the census, people. Every, 10 years or so, the census comes around, and people don't realize how important it is. Well, you and I realize exactly how important it is, which is why we are going to be interviewing in this episode the representative from the Miami-Dade County Census, Rafael de la Portilla. Funny story, we actually met him a couple weeks ago. It was like maybe a month ago. It seems like it was like 6 years ago at this point.
In the last public outing, I think humanity in South Florida, in Miami had, which was Carnival on the Mile.
Carnival on the Mile, yeah.
Who knew that was going to be the last hurrah?
If I would have known that was the last time I could have eaten like carnival food for a while, I would have totally approached the day differently. Would have definitely had way more arepas.
Yeah.
But so, we're going to be talking to Rafael or Ralph. And really, the big thing that we want to stress here, guys, is how big we are on representation. I mean, our whole spiel here is, from a Latino point of view, make sure that you own your Hispanicness, and especially, being in Miami, such a Latino community, we're very proud of our hometown. You need to make sure that you're counted. Don't think, number one, that because of this whole Corona thing that, the census is suspended or it'll happen next year. It is still happening. It's very easy to participate. And, we're going to talk to Rafael about why it's so important, because I think a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people realize the importance of the census at the end of the day.
No, I think they just think it's to count the population of the U.S.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand what it has to do with, like, funding and allocation and stuff like that. So, but why are he will tell us that.
Exactly. He'll get into the details of it and, and what it entails and how you can participate as well.
So here's our interview with Rafael de la Portilla from the US Census Bureau. But before we talk to Ralph, here's a word from our sponsor.
That's right. We got to pay some bills. Hey there, mi gente. Ish here. Do you have a ton of pics you love on your phone, but no idea how to display them in real life? Bueno, we've got the solution. CanvasPeople.com. We all have our favorite photo just sitting in our phone, but now thanks to CanvasPeople.com, you've got the perfect way to show them off. Simply visit their site, upload your fave pic, the one from Abuelo's 90th birthday, or the one with all your primos at your niece's quinces. Then with just a few clicks, you'll have a beautiful canvas print perfect for display. And if you visit canvaspeople.com now and use promo code PERO, you'll get an 11 by 14 canvas free of charge. That's right, a canvas valued at $76.99 for just the price of shipping and handling if you use promo code PERO. Así que visit canvaspeople.com today and turn your photos into a canvas printed work of art. And we're back, everybody. So as we told you, we have today probably one of the most important guests we've had in the history of our show, just because he's going to talk to us about something that is so ridiculously important and people don't even think about it. So we have Ralph de la Portilla, who's a partner specialist with the US Census. Although, given the fact that I think you mentioned this is your third go around with the census, you did field work, I can understand why people just call you the census guy here in Miami. You definitely have a nice history with the US Census. So welcome to Pero Let Me Tell You.
Guys. Thank you.
So thank you. Welcome on the show.
Thank you for the resounding introduction. Honored to be on Pero Let Me Tell You here tonight. Folks, the 2020 census is here, and it's not canceled.
At all.
Okay, good.
It's not canceled at all, okay?
Good.
First, I hope all listeners out there are in good spirits and, that everybody is healthy and listening in. It's about the census. And, this is my third go-around. I was also a field representative. See, guys, a lot of people think that the census just comes around once every 10 years, every year that ends in a 0, and then we pack up and we go home.
You mean it's not just some magical thing that exists on SurveyMonkey and that's it? Like, it's no,
not at all. I mean, the reality is we're doing 140 different surveys every month of every year, all decade long. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And
oh my gosh.
It's really how we know what we know. Guys, indirectly or directly, everybody listening here, it affects us in one way or another.
Yeah.
Okay?
So why don't we take a step back and kind of, for those listeners who may have heard of the census or kind of think they know what the census is all about, why don't we kind of like tee it up a little bit, so they know what it actually means?
I'm not going to get into a full history or civics lesson right now, but we're going to have to dust off our social studies textbook.
Oh,
guys.
No, not that class.
Because, all right, just for a second anyway.
Okay.
Look, it's enshrined in our U.S. Constitution since 1787 when that document was signed. It is mandated that we do a head count of every living, breathing person living in U.S. territory. Okay? Today, for us, that means all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and our 5 outlying U.S. territories, okay? And that is a head count of every single person. It happens every year that ends in a 0, and my friend, it's been happening every 10 years since 1790. Well, here we are, 2020, and we are the only country of this size, okay, where it is mandated that we have to count everybody one by one, believe it or not. Other developed countries, guys, they do statistical sampling. They do, administrative records from other government organizations within their respective governments, and they do an estimate. Here in the U.S., that's not the way it works, my friends.
Oh, wow.
We have to count every single living, breathing person, okay? And the Constitution, guys, once again, is clear. It says every person living in the United States and its territories have to be counted, okay? This includes everybody, citizens, non-citizens, legal permanent residents, undocumented people, everybody. It's truly
so anybody who's
of our democracy.
Anybody who's in an American, either in the United States or an American territory, anybody who's
American
physically
soil,
there.
or
If you are breathing, DJ, if you are breathing, that is the only requisite, and it is mandated by law. Everybody has to participate.
So I'm curious. I mean, maybe this is a kind of a more historical content question. What do you think in terms of the founding fathers? Who at that time, the colonial America, especially at the time of the Revolution, was so much smaller. What do you think their intention of that was?
Well, their first intention was apportionment. Apportionment is basically a term that means allotting representation to the different states. I mean, back when it started, what was it? It was like maybe 14 or 15 states. This is beyond the original 13 colonies. By 1790, when they realized that first census in 1790, and back then, our founding fathers, if you will, they were upset at the count. Of course, back then it was federal marshals that went on horseback and went counting everybody one by one. Okay, and I mean this was a process that was an arduous process. It took forever to actually finish, but at the end they delivered the results to the White House as mandated by the Constitution, okay, and they came up with about 3.9 million people. That was the first census. And George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin, you name it, they were all livid, okay, because they felt that it was an undercount, that there was far more than 3.9 million. Looking back at history, though, no, there wasn't. It was just about right. It was about 3.2 million in that first census back in 1790. And yeah, it was for representation, guys. Now it's for so much more. Okay, it's not just representation or power, as I like to call it. It's also about money.
In what way?
Well, this is how other agencies and organizations within our country, this is how they determine how nearly $1 trillion goes distributed every year throughout the next decade after these numbers are counted. We're talking everything from our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our highways. We're talking about public schools, public hospitals, SNAP benefits or food stamps, as they call them, public housing or Section 8. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Not only that, emergency preparedness, now that we're talking about it during this crisis that we're talking about it now. Emergency preparedness, FEMA, I mean, everything that affects our standard of living as residents of the United States and its territories is affected by this once-a-decade count. Truly a cornerstone of our democracy. Truly.
So let me ask some questions that I think maybe an average layperson who would be listening to this conversation would have. So when you say things like FEMA, so let's say that obviously South Florida, where we're at now, which is a place that there's a lot of hurricanes here. So knowing the exact amount of people, or as close as the exact amount of living, breathing persons, as you say, that are in this geographical location helps a federal agency like FEMA allocate and assess what the response would be in an event of an emergency then.
That's precisely it. That is precisely it. We've got to figure out every 10 years, every year that ends in a zero, how many of us there are, who we are, and where exactly we're located. Okay? That's the only way that resources like FEMA, in your latest example, that's the only way they can figure out what resources they need to allocate and send to an affected area in a natural disaster, as you mentioned, hurricane season.
Is the census,
is the only way.
Is the census also being applied, I mean, the reporting from the census, shall we say, to the COVID situation when they determine, in terms of how many supplies
and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I imagine so. I mean, but again, those are questions for the organizations, in this case, the executive branch with their coronavirus response team. That's what numbers are they going to look at? They're going to look at the baseline number, and those are census, US Census Bureau numbers. Okay, and period. That is the only source. Look, no census is perfect, guys.
Of course.
But I'll tell you what, it's probably the most prolific, the greatest census in world history. Listen, censuses are not new. And yes, I checked. The plural of census is censuses. Okay.
It's not censi.
Not censusi.
Censuses are nothing new, man. We're talking, go back just to the Bible, okay? Joseph and Mary were on their way, okay, to the Roman census. There's historical records going back to, Egypt, ancient Egypt, of censuses being conducted. So, again, it's how we know what we know. It's the only way the U.S. can govern itself. And in the end, it really determines our standard of living, no matter who you are, here in Miami, in South Florida, or anywhere in the U.S. It really will determine our standard of living.
So with the census allocating all these benefits that so many of us need, as you said, something as simple as infrastructure, something that we all need on a daily basis, bridges, roads, airports,
we
so
don't
on
think
and so
about
forth.
it. Yeah.
Why do you think that people, on the most part, I don't want to generalize, but people on the most part have such an eye roll, census. So it's like, oh, the census, I'm not going to fill out the paperwork, or, oh, I'm not going to do it. If it's something that's so important and so beneficial for everyone.
I'll tell you what, well, first, let me backtrack there, DJ, and let me just tell you, the census doesn't allocate that. Other organizations within our government and outside of our government are the ones that, informed by census numbers. The Census Bureau, we're only data collectors. That is
right.
And we are sworn for life to uphold a respondent's confidentiality. That's safety and confidentiality, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, people are going to eye roll because they think of it as a federal government thing, man. They think of it as a federal government thing.
It's the man.
I always tell all of our party, exactly, the man. I'll tell you what, we are the most apolitical and probably the friendliest form of federal government that possibly exists, okay? We are semi-autonomous, number one. No other federal agency can subpoena census records. I mean, we don't care who you are.
Really?
FBI, no CIA, no ICE. No, it's the law. It is enshrined in U.S. code, my friend. They cannot subpoena anybody's census records. I mean, look it up. Google it. I mean, there was gosh, and I right now it escapes me what it was, but several years ago, another federal intelligence agency was doing a terrorism investigation, and they subpoenaed census records from the most recent decennial census at that time, and they were denied. I mean, literally, they were denied, okay? I mean, and I like to call it the 76-year rule, okay? I'm sorry, 72-year rule. 72 years. What does that mean? 72 years? Nobody can go ahead and trace DJ as living at 123 Biscayne Boulevard on this date for 72 years, not from census records. Okay? That is archived in the most sacred of national archives, okay, which is the National Archives, for 72 years under lock and key. Okay, period. Not even the President of the United States has access to any addresses or household census records. Remember, we're not censusing individuals. We're censusing addresses, okay? That's why the once every 10-year national big count, known as the 2020 census this year, is known as the Survey of Population and Housing of the United States of America, okay? We are censusing an address. When people received in March that initial invitation to participate in the 2020 census, it wasn't to DJ, okay? It
That's
said
true.
to the occupant of 123 Biscayne Boulevard.
That is true.
Because we don't know who's in there, nor are we going to share that. So good news, 2022 is coming up, and that's the first time we're going to get a glimpse at the 1950 census records. For all genealogical buffs and history buffs like myself, I will be taking a look at that 1950 census with a lot of interest. Okay.
So I find this fascinating. I find this so fascinating with what you're telling me because, not only because of the law aspect of it, I've practiced law for many years, but because I know now with law, especially, especially things like the Patriot Act and all that stuff, and with terrorism, we've kind of, broken down barriers that once were very sacred. Like I know now with subpoenas, you could send it to AOL, and AOL, under subpoena has to produce email records, and there's always that constant argument of privacy versus protection. And to know that the census, as you said, it's lock and key, nobody's getting that. That is fascinating.
That's exactly it. Census, the laws that apply to the Census Bureau, okay, trump the Patriot Act, my friends, okay? No one is going to access those census records. And I'll tell you what, we've been apologizing for the one and only time in the last in the last century, okay? The one and only time it was breached was the Japanese-American the seizing of those populations at the onset of World War II. That's when census records were compromised the last time, and I'll tell you what, we've been apologizing for it shortly after then, and we're still apologizing for it now.
Yeah,
it
wasn't the best day. It wasn't the best day in America.
No, it wasn't, okay? And it wouldn't happen. So, guys, in short, okay, people are going to eye roll because it's a federal activity. But I tell everybody that I meet here in South Florida, anyway, here in Miami, I tell them, guys, don't think of it as a federal activity. This is a national activity, okay? Yeah. If there's anything you love about residing here in the United States of America, with all of its good and its bad, okay, then you should, if there's anything you love about it, you've got to participate in the census. We've got to get an accurate number. We've got to know exactly who we are, how many we are, and exactly where we are in order for this society to function, especially moving forward in light of the current crisis that we're in right now.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned... go ahead, Darian.
Well, no, what I was going to say, Ralph, so, with this whole issue, matter of privacy, that, census records are, the most private records, that we have. Obviously, one of the things, especially in this round of the census that we've been hearing for a while now, was the fear of many people that are undocumented filling out the census. That's been going on now more than ever. We hear it in the news, and I believe there was that whole, not controversy, but the whole discussion back and forth about the citizenship question on the census. I feel that a lot of people maybe don't know what we're discussing right now in terms of the level of confidentiality of the census. Do you think maybe that it would help, just from a PR perspective, if maybe a lot of people, especially that are undocumented, didn't have that fear of the census and of showing us we're here, showing, the country that they're here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, look, I'll tell you what. When I speak to audiences, whether it's on the radio or television interviews that I've been doing, or at organizations back before the crisis hit, when I spoke to groups, especially advocates for recent recent immigrants. Again, we're in Miami-Dade County. We're at the epicenter of recent arrivals and immigrants, okay? What I tell them is not to fear the census. On the contrary, now more so than ever, in spite of the political climate that there has been over the last few years, now more so than ever, is the time to proudly say, yes, I'm Hispanic or Latino, and yes, I'm Salvadoran or Guatemalan or whatever they identify with, okay? And to do it with aplomb, okay? This is that safety net, and this is where we get a clear picture of who exactly we are. And yeah, that question, that was put there at the behest of the executive branch. It did go to our Secretary of Commerce, who formally suggested that the question be added. And two federal judges, and ultimately the Supreme Court struck it down. And by the way, just for the record, okay, the Census Bureau was the first to advise upper leadership in our government that was a bad idea, okay, to add the question. And even after that, we went ahead and we put it as a test question on a test survey that had a limited distribution around the country. And the conclusions were, yes, it would have probably prevented a more robust self-response of what it is. When I say self-response, guys, look, this is how the Census Bureau has been counting everybody in this country since 1950. Okay, that's 50. It's been a mail out, mail back program. Okay, we mail out to every known address in the United States a census questionnaire, and you are entrusted as residents living in the United States to fill it out for your household, the people living at your address, filling it out completely and accurately and sending it back. Okay? Then what happens to, a good 30% of households that don't respond? That's when we go ahead and we employ, in this case, nearly 500,000 temporary census workers that live locally in the respective areas that they're going to be working in
500,000?
to go knock on those doors and to verify those non-responding households. Okay? That's when you get a knock at the door. Okay? And, again, this is the way it's been working since the 1950 census. Okay? If you don't fill it out and mail it back, so to speak, then we have to go verify, as constitutionally mandated in our country, we have to count everybody one by one. Okay?
Yeah.
So, now sometimes it's not people that are refusing because, they don't like the federal government, they don't want to fill it out, or because they're recent immigrants and they're afraid. Sometimes, let's face it, guys, that apartment or that house is vacant. But guess what?
Mm-hmm.
We need a temporary census worker that lives in the area, preferably, and knows the area in which they are enumerating, as it's called, to go knock and to verify if that place is lived in, or if it's vacant.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So that's the way this census works. Ultimately, we should get pretty darn close to 100%, give or take, plus or minus 2.5 percentage points.
How much did you get last census, approximately? What was the percentage, more or less, completed?
Well, the self-response all in was in the low 70s. Okay, which still means, let's round it down to 70%. That means that 7 out of every 10 households responded. That means 30% of all households in the United States and its territories, we had to knock on those doors.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it being any different this time. Obviously, things are on hold as of the time of this podcast, okay, because of the current crisis that we're in because of COVID-19. And, we're monitoring this situation on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, but the census is not canceled. This is happening, and it must happen constitutionally mandated, just like an election will happen later this year.
Right. You think that a lot of people, maybe because they're stuck at home, may actually respond now? Because I did it when the letter came through. Obviously, you go online and you self-report, and it's kind of done. You think that maybe
so good.
Well, I got to practice what I preach. But do you think that
Ish needs a sticker. I've got a sticker here.
Yay!
I've got to give him a sticker that he was counted.
I love stickers.
My goodness.
I love
Thank
stickers.
you so much. I'll tell you what, if it's, and I may be biased with all the different functions I've performed within the Census Bureau on and off for the last 20 years, but I feel that being counted is even more important than an election, believe it or not. Look, I'm not saying an election is not important, okay? An election's going to be important. Mm-hmm. But without the census, we can't do elections, We can't determine voting precincts.
Okay.
We can't determine how much representation we're going to have. It determines everything. So in that respect, being a part of this is more important than voting, and no citizenship required, my friends. So
yeah, that's one of the reasons why we really wanted to have you on the show, and I mean, we were going to talk about the census regardless, but we really wanted to have you on the show is because, as we talk to a predominantly Hispanic community, and with our podcast, and I think that a lot of times, Hispanics, we brush things off, we're like, well, whatever, and I think that especially for us, it's imperative because they need to know how many of us are here because, for, as you said, either for whatever reasons, whether it's political amnesty, change in the laws, influence to immigration reform, all of that. There's no way of knowing if they don't know how many immigrants are here, whether undocumented or not, then nothing's going to get done.
DJ, it's how we know what we know. It's a snapshot. It's one great big selfie of America, and we are taking it right now, April 2020, as of the time of this podcast being recorded. Okay, and this is it. This is how we know what we know. Okay, and you know, I mean, again, there's a multi-million-dollar ad campaign going out there by headquarters in Washington D.C. For the Census Bureau nationwide, especially to Hispanic and Latino populations. But I'll tell you what, man, I really want to get an accurate number of how many people identify with being either Cuban or of Cuban descent. Okay, I really want to know how many Venezuelans we have now here after the crises that have been ongoing for the last 20 years in Venezuela. I want to know how many, ultimately, being a resident here in Little Havana myself, I want to know how many Guatemaltecos, Salvadoreños, and Hondureños there are. I really want an accurate picture and an accurate number of that. You know,
well, with what you're saying, when you look at South Florida just as a microcosm, you know, 10 years ago, you know, again with what you're saying, we didn't have as many Venezuelans as we do now because of everything that's happening in Venezuela. So that number has completely shifted. It's completely shifted, and with other countries as well, because a lot of people from Honduras and Nicaragua, you know, for their own problems, have also come here. So, and that's just in the microcosm of Miami or Dade County. So,
yeah, that's precisely it, guys. So now more than ever, and Ish, going back to your point of, you know, people, we have a captive audience now. It's easier than ever to fill out this darn census, okay? We could do it online. We could do it on the phone, by the way, in 12 different languages. And online, there's 57 or so language guides.
Oh, wow.
Of 57 additional languages to show you how to do number one, how to do number two. It's 9 simple questions.
Yeah, really.
And they're extremely important because this is the baseline number that we're going to be living with, not just in South Florida, but throughout the rest of the nation. Okay?
Yeah.
For
there's no excuses.
10 years.
No excuses. I'll say,
period.
Yeah.
You can do it, guys, even while you're watching Tiger King on Netflix. Okay, there's no reason not to do it.
I watched Tiger King. I'm sitting on the fence, guys, about a presidential pardon for that. I really don't know.
I don't know.
We're talking about the census.
The tough questions, really. Put that on the census.
I don't know. You know, I think
it's funny that that's become a thing, though. The presidential pardon thing. Like, I think actually Trump said something about, like, it actually got to that level. That, like, the actual president commented on it.
That level, it really went there. Okay. And yeah, that's just the reality that we're living in, guys. It's going to be pre-COVID America and post-COVID America. And I really hope, I hope that there's good things on the other side of this. I know a lot of people are going to be listening to this already on that side. And I'm really hoping that, there's good things happening.
So talk to us a little bit about deadlines in terms of, so we have a time now to do the mail-in. So what are the different stages in terms of the deadlines?
Look, the deadlines have shifted just a tad. But again, the US Census Bureau, we are monitoring this on a daily basis. We're monitoring it on a weekly basis. And really, if we have to push things back just a little bit to ensure the safety of our local census employees, the temporary staff that we're going to be hiring nationwide, and of course the American public, we will do it. Okay. Again, this is a situation right now where we just have to, see what's happening, and it's going to vary in different communities. As different hotspots develop in different places during this COVID-19 crisis. So, for now, officially, we wanted to wrap up everything, self-response and those field operations that we've discussed, okay, that non-response follow-up. We wanted to wrap that up by July 31st. But now the official statement as of this recording, okay, is mid-August. and that could change tomorrow. Okay, you know, it could be a very different census, but you know, really, what the law states is that we have to deliver the final number to the White House by December 31st of census year. That would be December 31st, 2020.
Okay.
So we're determined to make that happen. But again, this is a very fluid situation. This is a moving target. And, you know, we're monitoring it every single day. But what's most important to us is our employees' safety and the American public safety.
Absolutely, absolutely. And information, knowing people, you know, what we talked about here, people knowing the importance of this is key. Because I think if people really knew, then they wouldn't be, you know, some people wouldn't be passé about it. They'd be on it immediately.
DJ, there's always like, there's a 1/5 of the population. I forget where I heard this or read it, but there's about 1/5 of the population that are always naysayers and say, nah, I don't believe in that, or you know, are conspiratorial. You know,
they're all on Twitter, basically.
You know, whatever. There's always going to be about 1/5 of people, and you know, again, it's probably going to be that 20% or so of people that we're going to be knocking on their house and following up. Here's the thing about knocking on your door when we do a follow up because you haven't responded to the census online, by phone, or by mail. It tends to be less accurate information. It's also mind-blowingly expensive, guys. It's mind-blowingly expensive sending people out to knock on doors. And I don't know about you guys, but I get freaked out when I hear a knock on my door, okay? Those are the times we live in, okay? And it is. It was just an Amazon order that I did 2 hours ago that I forgot about. And I'm still like freaked out. Like, oh, shit.
I forgot the name of there's a comedian, I forget his name, that he's like in his 30s or 40s, that he has a monologue that when we were kids in the 80s, when people would knock on the door, be like, oh my God, it's Uncle Jim or it's whomever, it's the neighbor coming. And now you knock on the door and you're like hiding.
I totally saw that, and all of us are hiding. That's just the sign of the times as of this recording, my friends.
So I want to
avoid the knock. Avoid the knock. Fill it out. We're all home right now. Do the darn census. For God's sake. Yeah.
I want to tell our listeners a little funny story on how we met. Because we, you know, to our listeners, we met Ralph at Carnival on the Mile, and but let me tell you, we had created this whole T-shirt of the United States Census Bureau with that is supposed to look like a census question, and then, you know, the answer was de Miami, you know, it's kind of showing your Miami pride. And during the weekend at Carnival Miami, we got a lot of people coming over thinking we were the Census Bureau. So then finally, Ralph comes over to our booth on Sunday, and I see him looking very official, and I see him from far away, and I'm like, oh my God, the census guy is coming here. He's going to get us in trouble. I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to tell us to shut down the operation. You couldn't have been more awesome.
DJ and Ish of Pero, let me tell you this, okay? Before being a census guy, I am a native Miamian. Okay, and I love my community, and I love how we identify with our cultural heritage here in Miami. Okay, and I'll tell you what, that T-shirt embodies who we are. Okay, in this extremely unique city. I'll tell you what, there is no other city like it in our country.
That's for sure.
There is.
I agree.
I agree. Period. And that T-shirt was sheer brilliance. I am a fan now of Pero, let me tell you, forever.
Well, if the census guy found it funny, then we are humbled and honored. So
the honor is all mine, my friends.
So, well, thank you so much for being on our show. I know, obviously, you are super duper busy now because it's your season, it's your time. But thank you so much for being. Thank you so much for being on our show because we like to on the podcast. We like to make jokes and
entertain
keep people funny. But our motto in our podcast is listen, laugh, and learn. And we always want people to obviously laugh and have a good time, but leave the show knowing something knowing a little bit of something that they didn't know before.
Hell,
and this is something that's very important.
Before
Thank you so much.
speaking to you, I didn't know that this was written into the Constitution. So thank you for that. I mean, I got a new brain wrinkle today.
Absolutely. They keep, the people at the Census Bureau, they just keep calling me back. I'm probably going to do this for the 2030 census as well.
Well,
and I'm graying already.
And you know what? You can
greater and older then.
In 10
I
years,
hope to be talking to you guys then too.
I was gonna say you have an open invitation. 10 years from now, we'll still be here. You'll still be here, and we'll chat again.
I certainly hope so. You guys are great. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you so much.
All right.
Take care.
All right. See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Hey, everybody. Ish here. Mira. With all this sheltering in place, let's face it, things are about to get peludo y medio. And I'm not just talking about the hair on your head. Enter Manscaped, the best in below-the-belt electric trimmers, and basically making sure your crotch doesn't look like a rainforest. Listen, I was once like you guys. I was absolutely terrified of using an electric trimmer on the boys. I mean, I can hear you all saying it now, pero tú estás loco pa' carajo. There's no way I'm putting something that sharp, that close to my junk. But listen, they took 18 months to perfect the greatest ball trimmer ever created, the just-released Lawnmower 3.0. And I can tell you from personal experience, that bad boy works without leaving your nutsack looking like an extra of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Manscaped's Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer even has an LED light, which allows you to see, the forest for the trees. And you know what's even better than painlessly keeping your huevos neat and trim without having cuts and bumps all over them? How about getting 20% off and free shipping if you use code PERO at manscaped.com? Así mismo. Use code PERO and get 20% off your order and free shipping from manscaped.com. Dale, order today. Trust me, your balls will thank you. And we're back, caballero. Oof, man, it's a packed episode. You and I have talked about a lot of things. We have 2 sponsors. We had our guest Ralph. I mean, I don't know about
But you know what? That was a great interview, and Ralph was awesome because
he was.
I mean, as he said, we can't stress enough the importance of the census, and for some reason, a lot of people just brush it aside, and I am convinced, as we said in the interview, that is because they don't know the importance that it is to be counted, and I'm really happy we were able to have him on the show and for him to speak about that.
No, yeah, and again, you and I were kind of, talking about this a little bit, which is he did it in a way that was very entertaining. Like there was a lot of history there that I didn't know about. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times
he's very engaging. He's the perfect spokesperson.
Yeah, because a lot of times people
that,
think census, numbers, analytics, and it's like not at all. It was actually very freaking informative, and I thank him so much for being on the show.
Yeah, so gracias.
Yes, but you know what? Filling out the census might make you a little thirsty. And so,
yes.
As a result of that, I think it's time to give our last soda time. It's last soda time, absolutely. So, in the spirit of the last couple of weeks, we've been kind of just doing a joint soda because I think we can both agree that there's just so many organizations and so many people just giving back that we're going to just spotlight as many of them as possible. And especially in this week's case, it's an organization that, as you know, a lot of things have popped up in the last couple of weeks just surrounding COVID and trying to figure out how to help them, from, restaurants that are doing their best to work with distributors to try and sell the produce, and, organizations that are feeding, children in school and things like that. So there's this organization that is based out of Miami-Dade County called 305 Masks, and you can visit their website 305masks.com for a little bit more information. And they are a grassroots nonprofit who their whole goal is it's almost two-pronged. They're looking to supply masks to the medical community, which obviously we know are in dire need of them. But what they're also doing is, as on the flip side, they're working with people who sew. I don't know if I guess seamstress, sewists. I don't know what the technical term is. To actually sew these masks, and what they're asking of us to do is they've set up a page where we can donate, because a lot of these people are employees who've either been furloughed or laid off and are working and in the hopes of maybe getting a little bit of income in the process. So, this is an organization that was set up to basically help the medical community, but also help anybody who might be out of work. And so they are, if you go to 305masks.com, you can either request a mask donation if you are a medical professional in Miami-Dade County. They're going to ask for, I think, your medical ID, the medical ID from an institution that has to be in Miami-Dade County, or you can donate to their GoFundMe. And I think, obviously everybody's going through different situations during this time. Maybe you think, I can't afford to, donate. If you can't, what you can do is still spread the knowledge. You can still share this on social media. Spread the word about 305masks.com and what they're trying to do. Because I think a lot of times, especially nowadays, we're so hyper connected, we sometimes forget that the power we all have is the ability to spread good news, which I think we can all use a little bit more of nowadays.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there we go. And something that's, simple as a mask, something that a month ago we didn't even think about. Who knew? We didn't even think about. We took it for granted with masks. What? The only time you saw somebody wearing a mask was, when you were in a hospital or, the dentist office or whatever. And now it's something that's become essential just for even going to public. So even go to the supermarket.
I have mine, actually. So, yeah.
I have like 3.
I have the one. Actually, I got them from North of Miami.
Oh, so you got the Viva Peru one, right?
I have the Viva Peru one, and Jose has the little cafecito one.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I have a plain one. So, yeah, everybody, that was episode 105. As we said, we're gonna try to keep things moving here. Obviously, until all this, topples over, a lot of our content is going to be Corona virus. It's going to be about that because that's what's going on. But, we're also going to, as I said, keep it moving and hopefully continue to have interviews, mix it up because, you guys have told us that you love listening to us and we make you smile and laugh and, especially now,
it's two
take
voices.
That seriously.
It's 2 additional voices in your house that, you get to hear differently than the other ones that are there.
Yes. So, we're all stuck in this together and we're going to try to make the best of it on our part. So hopefully one day we'll record together again.
I know. Let me tell you something. When we are done with all this shelter in place, stay at home thing, I think that when we record, we're going to look like Siamese twins because I'm going to be sitting right next to you. I might just sit on your lap. No, we have to hug. We have to be as close as we can.
You know what I was thinking about? Earlier today? Remember, I don't know, 6-7 episodes ago when we were talking about having a party for our 100th episode. And we're no, we'll probably have it at 102nd, because we're just so busy with it. I'm on for 105. This isn't going away anytime soon. So, maybe by our 150th episode, we'll have
either 125 or 150 is what it's looking like now.
Yeah. So who knows? So, well, everybody, happy Friday, although all days
happy
seem
Easter.
like the same day now. Happy Easter. Oh my God. Yes, it's Easter. Resurrection. Yes. So and happy Passover.
Happy Passover as well. That's right.
To our Jewish friends. A lot going on this week, and it's Holy Week.
Exactly.
So enjoy your Cadbury bunnies and eggs, and we hope everybody listened, laughed, and learned. And grab your pastelito, your croqueta, and your jupiña. Wear a glove and a mask while you do it.
Yes.
And that was episode 105.
All right, mi gente, cuídense. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.